Candace. Welcome to Planet in the Word, and you made it to week 2, which is awesome. And if you have made it to week 2, you have found yourself reading Job. And I actually get a lot of questions about why are we reading Job as I read through the Bible chronologically right at the beginning. So that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about today, because it does seem a little strange. However, it is actually thought that Job was probably the first book of the Bible that was written. Now, there's a couple of reasons why we think that. And the first one is because of the time span that Job lived. His lifespan is similar to that of the patriarchs. So if you consider that Job was probably an adult, had 10 children, those 10 children sound as though they've made it mostly to adulthood. Then Job goes through his suffering. Then he has 10 more children, and after that, he still lives an additional 140 years. Most scholars consider that that probably means that he lived sometime during the patriarchs, but we have more to back that up than just that fact alone. The second thing is the money mentioned in the book of Job went out sometime during the patriarchal period. It wasn't used for very long. But the third point that I'm going to make is probably the one that might be the most interesting to you. And that is the fact that the Septuagint actually adds some information that our Bibles, based on the Masoretic text, actually don't have. Now, there is some conversation among scholars about, was that information added? Was it originally there and the Masoretic text took it out? So basically it's a question of, has it been added in or has it been edited out? And either way, you can probably make a case for both. But our Bibles, our translations that we tend to use right now, choose to leave out the additional verses, which is totally fine. They don't necessarily contain any heaven or hell issues. There's no great theology going on there. But it is interesting that one of the passages that is excluded gives us a little bit of a timeline clue, and we're going to talk about that. So there's 2 places that our Bible doesn't have verses that are actually included in the Septuagint. And the first one is Job 2:9. Now your verse reads 2:9. And then it stops. And this is the conversation Job is having with his wife. And in fact, in our Bible, Job's wife says, look, curse God and die. And that's the end of her speech. But in the Septuagint, her speech is a little bit longer. So it's going to appear on your screen, but let me read that to you. This is what it says. Remember, the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, completed about 300 BC. So it's still an ancient document. So that's why we're going to give it a little bit of weight. So this is what Job 2:9, A through E, as it's notated in the Septuagint, reads. After much time had passed, his wife said to him, how long will you wait, saying, behold, I wait just a little time to receive the hope of my deliverance. For behold, your memory's been removed from the earth. Sons and daughters of my womb, pangs and labors, that I labored with hardship. And you seat yourself among the decay of worms to pass the night in the open air. And I am being led astray, and am a servant wandering from place to place and from house to house, welcoming the sun when it sets, in order that I might stop my labors and pains. Now, come to me and say some words, translated, and just curse God and die. That's her complete speech that she gives in the Septuagint. So a little more, I don't want to say whining, but she's really pointing out to him the sorrow and suffering that they've gone through and that they have no progeny to remember who they are. So that's an interesting, although it's neither here nor there. The second passage that I'm going to show you that has been added to the end of Job actually gives us some genealogical information and helps us. This is why we put it as the second book in the middle of Genesis. So let me read that passage to you. I'm going to leave out some parts of it. I'm just going to read you the first couple verses and the last verse so that you get the gist of it, because he really goes into genealogy, which is not important to what I'm talking about here. But let me read you. This is Job 42, and it's verse 17, and it's notated as A through E. And this is what that says. And Job died an old man full of days. Now that's where your Bible ends, but this is where it continues on. And it is written that he shall rise again with the ones whom the Lord shall raise up. This man is described by the Syriac Bible as dwelling in the land of Uz, on the borders of Edom and Arabia. And his name before was Jobab, we would say Yovav. And being taken an Arabian wife, he begat a son, whose name was Enan. And he himself had as a father Zerah, from the descendants of Esau. Now that gives us a little context that he is actually a descendant of Esau, but still puts him as a descendant of Abraham. Interesting to note. Let me read you the very last verse that they give us at the end of this Septuagint entry. And the friends who came to him were Eliphaz of the descendants of Esau, king of the Temanites, Bildad, the sovereign of the Shehuites, and Zophar, the king of the Naamathites. So it tells us now who his three friends were, and they were actually supposedly kings in the region. This makes these men not just Job's friends, but it indicates that all of them were probably tribal leaders in the area. That lets us know, again, that Job probably lived during the era of the patriarchs, which means if our first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, were written by Moses and are all about the Exodus, this particular book would be inserted about the time of Abraham, but probably completed first, since the Pentateuch goes all the way into the entering to the promised land by the Israelites. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context and you find that interesting. I hope you enjoy your reading. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. Bye-bye.